Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lizak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, founder and CEO of BDEX. What's new, David?
Hey, Jesse. What's new? I don't know. Just, the usual busy times, and that's all. But I'm actually really looking forward to this conversation because, as you know, we talk about all kinds of data on this podcast, but having somebody on here to talk about identity data is always fun for me since that's my specialty.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm excited to get into it. So today on Deconstructing Data, we're excited to welcome on Ben Fenster, co-founder of Anzu. Let me bring him into the screen. Welcome, Ben.
Hey everyone.
Hey, Ben. Thank you for joining us on the show today. We're excited. I know I'm excited to get this kicked off, and would love to have you sort of introduce yourself a little bit for our viewers and listeners. So why don't you give them a little bit of background about who you are, how, a little bit about your journey, what led you to become co-founder of Anzu, and what you guys are doing today.
So first of all, thank you for having me. So my name is Ben Fenster. I'm one of the co-founders of Anzu, and we started this journey almost nine years ago. And it's been like a very interesting road. In my background also came from gaming, and this is where I saw like a great opportunity to do something a bit different. In a previous role that I had in a public company called Playtech, we used to do advert games. So we did like Hunger Games for Warner Brothers and many other like Narcos for Netflix and many kind of these kind of games. And what I saw there is was a huge opportunity to connect brands and games, and how powerful it could be, but also how complicated and not very scalable it was. So by creating this new medium and this new kind of ad format that we called intrinsic in-game ads, that places the ads inside the game world, in the game environment, and makes the ad a part of the game environment. But on the other side, it's standard ads that you can transact on programmatically. This together made a scalable way for the brands to interact with the users through games. And this is basically the idea of Anzu and why we created it.
That's awesome. So gaming is definitely an industry that do not have a lot of familiarity with. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot. But the first topic, identity resolution beyond the cookie, is definitely something I know a little bit about, and we talk about a lot here. I'd love to get your take on this, and especially how this applies in your space in the gaming industry.
So in the gaming space, it's mainly native apps. So we don't have access to cookies. So we already started in a cookieless environment right off the bat. And so we rely more on either the login of the player. So in the end, games have a great reason to get the player logged in. You want to save your game data in the cloud. You want to save your DLCs. You want to. There is a lot of. You want to play multiplayer games. So there is a lot of reason for the game to get you logged in and authenticated. So is one direction. Then on the other, you have maids and alternative IDs. So it's always been like best of breed, depending on the platform. Some environments like consoles, for example, are authenticated by default, like structurally authenticated, versus mobile, which is depending on the game, either authenticated or not authenticated, but relies on advertising IDs. So it's always been a mixture of solutions.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, the one sort of advantage you have in the, I guess, mobile gaming, especially space, is that, as long as you can get the user to register, you get their email address. There's a challenge, I guess, you deal with mobile IDs if somebody asks not to be tracked, right? But if they give their email address, then at least you have some identifier for them and can know who they are. I'm wondering, I'm curious what sort of challenges are introduced by these temporary emails, like Apple's relay emails, and Google's doing the same as well now too. So what sort of challenges does that introduce, and does that, are there other ways that you can sort of get around and still improve targeting, even when somebody's sort of using one of these temporary emails?
So that's definitely a real issue. So there are two answers, two common solutions. So one is like alternative IDs. So it could be made to ramp IDs, and it could be more probabilistic ID5 IDs, and it could be some of the games are also using their own login sign-in solution, so they collect the email directly, and that's on the one side. Then on other platforms like consoles, for example, you don't use Google or Apple Connect, so the platform again has the email. So it really depends on the platform. But you always need to support multiple solutions and understand the traffic of the publisher and use the right solution for his use case.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm curious, what about IP addresses as well?
IP addresses, for example, in consoles and PCs are, and especially in the US, are static residential IPs. So that's definitely help with matching in this regard. But again, it's always a mixture of solution, and it's keep finding the best partners in the industry and partnering with them. Like we do that for identity resolution, we do that for measurement, we do that for really a lot of verticals, because in the end, there is like endless expertise, like, and you can really go down and find that even, for example, when you mention IPs can change quite often between ISPs, and sometimes you can have IPs that are very noisy with lots of devices connected to them, especially if it's like a Wi-Fi of like a business, or it's a cell tower, or like there are a lot of examples. So it's really understanding when you can even do that match, if at all. And then when you have like a mobile advertising ID, that's depending on the platform, that's great as well. Or a vendor like IDF-V, not just IDFAs. And then also the alternative IDs, like as I mentioned, ramp IDs and ID5 that we had great use case, like case studies with. So it's really about using all the tools you have and making the most, and making your traffic as addressable as possible. And today what we see, and also we saw the same from BitSwitch reported data, that today 65% of the bit stream will come with at least one alternative ID. So the industry, wasn't waiting, since everybody thought cookies are going to disappear like immediately. the industry worked hard to move to and support more solutions. Eventually, it's kind of not happen exactly that way, but still we see most of the traffic today comes with at least one alternative ID.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'll try not to turn this into a sales call. We can discuss this afterwards. But we do have 86 million households mapped to IP addresses. So that's why I asked about IP address. It's something that a lot of our clients are using, because it's we track it and validate it pretty well. We know that they constantly change, but understanding the household IP address has really helped a lot of our clients improve targeting. So, but I'll like I said, I won't turn this into a sales call.
We should definitely. We already talked about it. We should definitely have a talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, we absolutely will.
Definitely. And we could probably stay on this one topic the whole 45 minutes, but I am going to try to transition us now into the next topic, which is attention measurement that actually measures impact. Can you kick us off on this, Ben?
Yeah, like when we talk about attention, it's been a long journey. So it started more like a sales pitch, and then, just at the end of 2025, the IB finally released some sort of, guidelines that help turn it more into kind of a currency rather than something that is less tangible. But it feels to me that still there isn't like one attention score. It's like there are several ways of measuring it. There are several types of like KPIs for it, and in the end, it really depends on your like the strengths and weaknesses of the ad format to decide, and the platform to really understand which of the option would be the best in that use case. And it's like people move from viewability to attention, and it feels to me that viewability kind of answers a question no one was asking, like whether you had an opportunity to see the ad. But people like in the end really want to know, did someone really notice the ad and the content? Then from there go through the funnel into additional steps along the funnel. But it's definitely not fringe anymore. It's like very established, and in the past 2 years, we've been working very closely with Lumen, for example, and we've seen that different threshold of attention in different formats can really lead to huge differences. So it's really important to create a strategy and understand how to combine different ad formats and understand which thresholds are best for that ad format, and to create like an holistic strategy for your campaign, and so you'll be able to really leverage attention to the fullest.
That's interesting. So like, I mean, this is so outside of my wheelhouse as far as like measuring the attention of an ad. How does one measure that impact? I mean, I totally understand like from the perspective of like viewership. Yes, they viewed the ad. I know that like when it comes to video ads in the past, they've measured like how long did people watch it, right? Did people watch the whole thing? Did they watch 3 seconds of it or whatever? So when it comes to attention measurement, how are we measuring the impact? Like it's one thing to say, okay, someone watched the ad for 3 seconds or 5 seconds, or they watch the whole 30 seconds. But how does that translate into like actually measuring impact, like how effective it was?
So in this case, it's very important not to grade your own homework, and you really need a trusted vendor that can collect all the signals and really provide meaningful insights. And there are also several ways on how to measure. So you have eye tracking panels, like all kind of ML and predictive approaches, psychological approaches, and the survey approaches. So there are several ways on how to measure it. And actually, if you will actually try to use them all, they might not even agree. So that's another thing. So when we started the journey to, when the attention talk really became a part of any RFP and RFI that we were a part of. So this way we in this case partner with Lumen to really dig in and understand. What we found for us that eye tracking is was a great solution, because we leverage the way that in then our ads are part of the game content, and rely also the attention the content gets as the ads are really part of the game world. So we know we're going to get a lot of attention, but then how do you measure the attention of the ad itself? So the combination of knowing that you have a high viewability and then using eye tracking, you can literally pinpoint the parts of that viewability that translate into attention to the ad specifically, and being able to understand how different threshold translated to different outcomes down the funnel. That was a key for us. By the way, sometimes it would be survey data for brand lift, for example, and sometimes it will be other outcomes that would have been measured using other tools like Circana or like TransUnion or several others that have tools that could compare to various things. They could connect it to footfall. They could connect it to offline purchases. They could connect it to really a lot of things. And usually each brand came or agency came with their own set of vendors that can measure that. And when we also combine Lumen into that and could tie the attention data to the data that is to the other outcomes that happen after, what we saw was very clear that when you have the right thresholds and pass a certain minimum, you get a great gain.
It's amazing. It's like, and I think that like this entire, when you think about this entire process, it's so complex that it's probably like literally just couldn't even be done 10 years ago. But now with AI, you can ingest all of this different type of data and do these kinds of analysis and understand, literally the attention and impact of an ad, and measure an ad in ways that you never could have done before. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and once the cookie didn't die, but addressability in some way kind of got a huge hit. And when that started happening, it's related to specific consent regulations and operating system changes. and the fear of the cookie going away, and then it went away partially, in mobile, but not in desktop. Like a lot of these things kind of created this mixed modeling renaissance of like everyone rediscovering it again. And what we saw is that a lot of the big brands, like huge ones like insurance companies and banks, it's, everybody already knows them. But they really want to understand the ROI on huge scale. We saw amazing results. Like they were able to tie, as you said, things that we would never imagine possible before. They are possible now, and they can even do that without tying it to the individual, which is amazing, and without like open source models like the ones from Meta and Google and the huge advances in AI and data crunching capabilities. This wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. There's so much there. We do have a couple comments. We've got one from Kyle saying measurement should connect to business outcomes from earlier when we were talking about measurement.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
By the way, I feel like there is something that we should emphasize. Like attention is a means, not an end. So, like viewability is not an end, right? So, it's kind of, at least I feel it's more of a technical KPIs that tells you that it's more about if it's too low, then it's wrong, rather than if you have like endless amount of it, then it's incrementally better. So as I said, it's more understanding specific thresholds that help you understand that if you reach them, you're maximizing your opportunity, rather than the campaign goal should be reaching a certain attention level.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of incrementality, that's our next topic. Part of it, incrementality, attribution, and first-party media data. So Ben, why don't you kick this off for us?
So I think that when we talk about incrementality, the honest question is what happened because of the ad? And this is a tough question to answer. And there are several vendors out there like Comscore and Nielsen and Kantar and Circana, and there is a long list of vendors that each has its own expertise in analyzing incrementality. And I think there's a huge difference also between incrementality and attribution. Attribution tells you what got credit, while incrementality tells you what caused the result. And that's really important to separate them. Each has its place. But the thing is that measuring incrementality is not just about technology. Sometimes there are a lot of ways to experiment, like geo holdouts and ghost ads, and there are really many techniques you can use to understand incrementality. But understanding which one is right for you with the tools that you have and the way that you want to run your campaign, this is where things get very complicated.
Yeah, I think I just noticed that there's a couple new vendors out when it comes to incrementality that are promoting this heavily in this sense of, you're showing your ads, you're running a campaign, and you're choosing an audience to show those campaigns to. Some of those viewers become customers, right? Yet you continue showing ads to them because they still exist in that audience. And so one of the things that that a couple of these vendors are doing is sort of using exclusion lists and saying, okay, give us your customer base, and as that customer base grows, we will continue to sort of exclude them so that you can make sure that the audience that you're reaching is an incremental audience. It's new people, not just the same people. And it's sort of a trick, I guess, that some of these vendors are using in order to ultimately improve the return on ad spend, because otherwise you're advertising to the same people that are already becoming your customers, right? And so I think that that's kind of one of the new trends that I'm seeing in addressing incrementality, at least. Attribution is something we talk about on the show a lot. It's the difficulty of actually measuring a true attribution when there's so many sort of dark ways, whether it be dark social or whatever, that people engage, and you don't necessarily know who should be attributed with that conversion, because maybe they've been hit, you've hit them 2, 3, 4, 10 times in 10 different ways before they finally make a decision to engage with you and make a purchase or whatever it is. So attribution is always a difficult one, but I thought that was an interesting one on incrementality. I'm not sure if it's something you've seen recently as well.
So from the early days of MMPs, you always saw very weird phenomena that, one install have 4 sources, right?
Yeah.
So that's always kind of been, you would ask them and they were like, yeah, it's totally normal. And like, it's not that normal. So,
Mhm.
and it's kind of funny because on the one side, it doesn't make sense at all. But on the other side, how many times did you see an ad and you didn't end up, installing the app, for example, or doing the action the ad wants you to do, but after seeing it like a second time or a third time, you did it.
Mhm.
And so who really contributed the most? Like, would you do it in the third time if you haven't seen it in the first one? Like, that's a question we will never know, but this is why it's very hard to really have an honest answer of um, who does this, of the who to attribute it to. Um, and when things get out of something deterministic like app installs or a purchase, where the MMPs and the Apple scan network kind of give you a lot of like a good framework to do it. But if you try to do stuff like footfall attribution or offline purchases, things get really, really complicated. Some of the brands that we work with can have turnarounds of 6 to 8 months until they collect all the retail store data and do all the data science related to connect it. So they would run a campaign, like they would run millions of dollars of spend, and it would take them 6 months to understand if it was worth it. So um, that's just crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a huge endeavor you undertake, but on the other side, the level of granularity and insight they were able to create really amazed me. So, as we said, with all the advances in AI and the data crunching capabilities, um, um, we really have a lot of more tools than we used to have. and big companies are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think for those companies that it's taking 6 months for them to truly measure their impact of their ads, they would want to look into how to use AI to reduce that, because there's so many factors that can happen in that time period that can.
I totally agree. I totally agree. It's more related to the actual, imagine someone that needs to collect now all the sales data from all the convenience stores and
Sure, yeah.
and like it's crazy,
Yeah, that's a big undertaking, of course, for sure.
Absolutely. Wow, this has been such a great topic, and it's a great time. We were just talking about tools to maybe transition into our final topic, which is tech stack. Ben, it'd be really interesting to hear what some of your favorite tools in your tech stack are that empower you and your team.
Wow. Which one is the most impactful? So we can tell you that on the one side we love Imply Polaris, which is a great Druid-based complete BI platform, like from ingesting the data to storing it and visualizing it. And they're really doing a great job and allowing us to get really quick answers, even on years of data. For data warehouse, we also love ClickHouse and BigQuery. And for AI, we prefer Claude. So this is, I think, the most loved tools in our company. If I had to ask a survey, I guess.
Yeah, Claude's definitely on the top of my list, so I just keep giving him more and more to do. And
Definitely.
ClickHouse is a good one too. Actually, that's one that our team recently discovered and has been moving some of our really like heavy loads into ClickHouse and have found it to be very effective. So very efficient, I should say.
I'm still in ChatGPT, but I do use Codex now, and it's just so powerful. But I do like Claude as well. And there's Hermes now, and Manus, and just so many out there.
Yeah, Claude. I found Claude to be really difficult to connect to Salesforce, but I don't want to blame Claude. I blame Salesforce for that because their platform is just.
So I would, in many cases where I want to connect a Cloud Code into systems, what I would do is let it create a skill that embeds in it the script. So you could just then create a whole script that does exactly what you want and expose all the capabilities you want, and without relying on some connector that was limited in all kind of ways or didn't meet your use case. So you can kind of tailor it exactly to what you want, and it will write it really, really quickly. I guess that if you use Claude Code to build like agents and services that are not for technical people, but as a technical person, this is an engineer, and you write it more, you add as much deterministic code as possible into it. And I found that it's nearly limitless what you can do with it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's crazy how many tasks I keep giving it every day. And it's like every week I try to find like a new use for it, and then I'll like tweak it all week until I've improved it. And so now it's just like I just got so many different skills and routines set up in it now. It just does so much for me.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's a new day. Well, this has been a really great episode. But before we go, Ben, would you like to let listeners know how they can reach you?
So you can reach me on my LinkedIn page, where we're currently streaming this session, and don't be a stranger.
That's
Awesome.
right.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. And sales call as well too. So this has been fun. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time and for staying up late, because I know you're in Israel right now. So appreciate you doing this at midnight. But we'll see you backstage. But
That's, we like to call it the founder's second shift, right? So
Yeah.
exactly.
Just starting a second shift.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we
Definitely.
really appreciate it. All right. Well, we'll see you backstage, Ben, and everyone else. We'll see you next week. I'm going to go ahead and close this out with a video. So audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. Build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement. So just imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your brand, ensuring that your marketing is hitting the mark every time. We want to bring you closer to those marketing goals, and we're eager to guide you. So just visit bdex.com. You can click on the Talk to an Expert button and get powered by BDEX. Deconstructing Data is the show that makes data make sense. Every Thursday, David Finkelstein and myself, Jessie Lizak, sit down with industry experts to unpack how data really drives marketing. We do this in plain language anyone can understand. If you want real insights, real conversations, and zero jargon, tune into Deconstructing Data live on LinkedIn every Thursday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time.